entertain, educate, recreate, and intoxicate.
All right.
Hell yeah.
What's up, guys?
What's
What's
up?
up?
How's it going?
Woo! It's going good.
Another month goes by and we're back again.
Dude, how fast are these months? Like, I
Oh,
got paranoid. I was like, shit,
crazy.
am I up? Am I up? I don't think I'm up. It feels like I just did it.
Oh,
You did.
geez.
I got up this morning and I was like, oh, I got stuff to do. I got this to do. And I was checking and something came up where the date popped up. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
oh shit, we got a show tonight. I should study.
I remember that too as I was getting ready to go on my work trip out here to Reno. But Sunday night, I'm like, shit, we got a show Wednesday. And I'm like, trying to download stuff so I can read it on the plane. I'm like, damn it. All right. Well, let's see who is in the house. So far, we got Paranormal Brew. Hello, Taryn. Jade Kitten. Hello, Daniel Reed. That's all I'm seeing right at the moment. But welcome to the show. So tonight we're going back and revisiting Bigfoot. We're still looking for Daryl. What triggered the episode was a recent article, a preprint article, which we can explain what a preprint is when we get into this. But it came out in February 2023, and it's the third article actually looking at Bigfoot sightings compared to bear habitat, compared to people and population density. And this one was interesting because they had a bigger data set to work with. So you had a little more information, and we'll talk through that and see what our opinions are on it. And like I said, I'm in Reno at a work meeting, working off an iPad tonight. So we're gonna have Tim and Kenny do all the there's no alcohol at all out here. It's about the only damn thing there is to do besides gambling.
It's just soda. It's Diet Coke.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
It's just coffee. That's all.
Bullshit. What? So Tim will be helping out with the comments. Kenny will as well, and then if we need to share the screen or whatever of the paper, that would be good. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting paper, so I'm excited to talk about it. There's a couple good points in here, and we can briefly review. I'll talk a little bit about the two papers that were put out before and just what their general findings were. And that's about it for me on my opening comments. So let's go and toss it down to Kenny.
Oh.
I just had to
Wake up. Hello.
Refresh my comments because they weren't coming through. That was weird. Like nothing was like I'm seeing comments that were put up on screen. I'm like, where? I don't see them. All right. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, this was interesting because there's always been this idea that black bears or any kind of bears could be mistaken for Bigfoot sightings, and I think we touched on it the last time we talked about it.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that can be mistaken, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. People's perception and any kind of filters or biases and or obstacles in the way. We'll talk about those, but this was actually interesting to me because I read through the preprint and definitely we have to touch on that, like what that means, because it wasn't that long. And I went through it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. It really is a little interesting, and it gives you that data. And dude, I totally thought of you, Dave. As soon as it was going, all the stats and stuff, I'm like, oh, this is so Dave right here. But yeah, it was interesting to read through it and say, oh, okay. So they actually looked at these populations and they brought these charts together and they adjusted for population and they saw a correlation, which, that always means, there's still more study to do, but this is a step in that direction to give us an idea. So I thought it was really good. So with that, I'll toss it up to Tim.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. There's not a whole lot different there for me. There was a chart or a figure in the 2009 study, which I accidentally read first and thought that was the earlier one. Messed that up. But there are some pretty good, at least, illustrations in there where they show the black bear population. They overlay them with the Bigfoot reports. and it's pretty strategic. It's right along with it. It's pretty good. Pretty interesting. I like it. I've really always kind of thought, it's either if you're in West Virginia, then it's probably just one of us hunting that look like Bigfoot, or it's a black bear. Typically, in my opinion, but I like the concept. Dave shared this paper, I think, a couple weeks ago, and I really like the concept. I like that I like that it had never occurred to me to look at the concept of black bear population versus the correlation to reports of Bigfoot sightings. Anyway, it's correlations. I'm sure Dave understands that more than I do for sure, but it looks like it's panning out. So that's a very interesting thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. So exactly what article are we talking about? And I'll list that, and then we can go around and give our comments on what a preprint is. So the article is "If It's There, Could It Be a Bear?" By Flo Foxon, Foxon, from the Department of Data Management and Statistical Analysis, Piney Associates in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the U.S. The preprint, at least the one I downloaded, was put up on January 18th, 2023. And the whole point of the paper was to take a larger data set than they had in the prior papers and do the same thing. Basically look and see, is there a correlation between Bigfoot sightings and where we know bears or black bears are, and other, I think brown bears was mentioned at one point too. And then they also factored in the human population, because they're like, okay, well, that's great if these two things overlap, but you got to have people there to make the observations and be able to misidentify what they think they might be seeing. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty simple, pretty short paper, but it made some really good points. And I'll go right into the preprint. Then I'll turn it over to Tim and Kenny for their couple more opening comments on what a preprint is and what that means to them. A preprint is basically a paper that they just put out on the web or on a specific site, and it has not yet been peer reviewed. It hasn't been submitted for peer review. So this has not gone through the entire process of submitting to a journal. They review it, they get back to you, they give you comments, you correct it, send it back in. Or even before that, they decide if it's even worthy of publishing or not. But it's a pretty simple paper, and I would imagine they're working on trying to get this published somewhere. But the information's fairly decent. The statistical analysis is pretty straightforward, and the way they did it. So it's worth talking about at this point. And it works well with the other papers that came before it, the ones in 2009 and 2005. So it kind of makes sense with that as within that context. So Jade Kitten asks, can we read it? Yes, I think, Tim, you just put the link, or Kenny?
Yeah, I put the
link in there.
I put the link to the one you referenced. If It's There, Could It Be a Bear? The 2023.
Yep, that's it. Actually, all the papers and the ones they reference in the two earlier ones, you can get those for free too. So this isn't one of the situations you're going to pay $35, $40 for a 24-hour access to a journal article. So these are all available for you to download and take a read and see what you think. So those are my couple comments on a preprint. So let's go with Tim on his thoughts on preprints.
I still like it. I understand the limitations of it, but I still, again, like this, the fact that it's out there and made me think completely different of how to measure another way that I had never thought about before was really good. I was so impressed with the idea of looking at the population versus the sightings. It made me think, what else can you do about that? Like, what else can you apply that same type of concept to? Where else? again, like I like it. Like I understand, it's not peer reviewed, it's not gone around, but the idea of sharing that information and how they went about it and taking it in, it's good for me anyway. I liked it.
Good.
Yeah, I guess I'm torn. I like that we have access to it because a lot of these papers that are published, we don't have access to, except for the abstract. That's usually what we get.
We're
So
like,
nice.
hey, Dave, what does this paper say?
Can you send me a copy?
They cut me off, Dave.
Dave.
But yeah, I mean, I do like it. It's what they're going to submit. That's what it looks like to me when I went through preprints, looking at it, saying, all right, this is the full manuscript. This is what's going to be given over, and submit it for peer review. So we're getting the raw manuscript here, and it's cool to see. But as long as we keep in mind that it has not been peer reviewed and it might come back with changes,
which that's a good point.
Yeah.
Considering what we're going through, the EMF baseline paper, we
a
did
lot
that
of
quick.
changes.
We put it online. Anybody could have read it, and then we decided we were going to publish it. And I think once we're able to share after it gets published, you're going to see it is a totally different paper.
Right.
The ideas and what we found isn't so different, but the amount of material and the extra work and the review process, it's totally different. So yeah, it's almost somewhat similar to what we did, preprint and then going and publishing. It's like, okay, now we really have to bear down and bear down. And
I'm done.
Wait a minute, do I have it?
Night.
Well, hold on. There it is.
There you go.
I got it.
But yeah, so I mean, thank you. So I mean that's a good point there, and it's interesting that it's somewhat similar to what we've been going through. Which I have to say, there's one more little paragraph I need to fix, and then we're done for our paper. And the goal now is to try to get it out in March, in the March publication, which moved up. I thought it was going to be the summer. Now they're moving it up to March. So anyway, so we digress. So sorry, Kenny, go ahead.
It's all right. I mean, it's all good. I mean, that's what I just want everyone to caution on, because as you explained, we had a paper and we did a preprint in essence. We put it out there, we posted it. Yep. And now when it was submitted, other people got to look at it. Other perspectives came into play. Other people with different knowledge base that looked at it and said, oh, all right, well, you need to flesh this out a little bit more. You need to beef this up. What about this? They had questions about certain things that we have to answer. And overall, it's a great process. It builds it and makes it a stronger paper. And that's what we have to keep in mind. This is good. Preprint is really good for getting interest, as long as it's done well. Like if you have like a what is it? Ketchum? The Bigfoot pet, the veterinarian Ketchum that did that report. She published a paper
on the DNA.
On DNA, Bigfoot DNA, and couldn't find anyone to publish it because it was
they made up their own journal.
So she made up her own journal. Yeah. So I mean, this is why we have to keep in mind of what's going on and what it is. But as long as it's done well and it's put out there, and then it generates interest. We talk about it like what we're doing now. We talk about it, we discuss it, and then we see what happens. Like nerds like us have it printed out so that we can look at it later and we can compare what has come up, what has been added, what has been changed. And, I really,
yellow, orange.
There you go.
So bullshit, interesting,
yellow, pink, green. Right next to me.
Yep.
Nerd.
Oh shit.
Nerds. So anyway, Daniel Reed, I think Joe Nickel took a bear sighting map and a Bigfoot range map and overlaid them a good while ago. I can't find a source of his to cite, but I'm sure I read it at one point. They actually do cite a 2013 Joe Nickel paper in this one, Bigfoot
Yeah.
lookalikes tracking hairy man beasts, Skeptical Inquirer 37. I'm not sure if that's the one you're talking about, but I don't know if it was this paper or it might have been one of the other ones. They did make the point, and they directly addressed the comments by people who don't believe it's Bigfoot, saying, "Oh, it's just maybe bear sightings." But the point they made there was, well, that's all well and good you say that, but what do you have to back it up? What analysis have you done? And while I'm sure what Joe did was good and it shows potential, unless you actually apply some methodology and math to it, it doesn't, it's just a picture. So
I don't know what Joe did. I mean, I can look it up, but I'm not sure if he wrote about it. I don't remember an overlay map, but I think I think he went into I can't even say that word, specific cases, and just looked at a few cases where he went through. I don't know if I'll look it up though. I could be wrong. It's been a while. Okay.
All right. So I think what I'm going to do now is, why don't I just quickly read through the abstract, because that's the summary. Basically, what we're doing tonight is like a journal club. We're reading a paper and we're going through and talking about it and critiquing it.
Man, if we're not nerds by a journal club, this is it.
Well, it's a journal club with drinks and commentary. All right, so I'll read it real quick. It has been suggested that the American black bear may be responsible for a significant number of purported sightings of an alleged unknown species of hominid in North America. Previous analyses have identified a correlation between Bigfoot sightings and black bear populations in the Pacific Northwest using ecological niche models and simple models of expected animal sightings. The present study expands the analysis to the entire U.S. and Canada. So that's a key point, is the prior study just did a smaller area. This one expanded to the entire U.S. and Canada. And then the analysis was done by regressing the Bigfoot sightings on bear populations in each state or province, while adjusting for human population and land area in a mixed effects model, which we won't get into that. Otherwise, we'll probably lose most of the people. They'll fall asleep and nobody wants to hear about that anyway. But it's just a fancy way of really dealing with all those different variables that you're looking at. Bigfoot sightings were statistically significantly associated with bear populations, such that on the average, one sighting is expected for every 900 bears, which I thought was pretty cool, because now you're getting into a predictive model where you're like, okay, if we know there's like 900 bears in this area, we will most likely be able to find a Bigfoot sighting. And you can actually test that. You can take it to other areas and see if it pans out. So based on the statistical considerations, it is likely that the many supposed Bigfoots are really misidentified known forms. If Bigfoot is there, it may be many bears. So any general comments on the overall abstract? And the abstract is basically taking everything in the paper and summarizing what the point of it was, what they did generally, and then what they found.
Oh, you got me already. I've already looked up black bear population in West Virginia, so I want to get started on that. The predictive, like, now I got to find how am I going to find all the reports?
I did look. I want to mention real quick. I did look up the article from Nickel that was mentioned, that was referenced, and
I was looking for that too.
Doesn't have any charts in it. Doesn't have an overlay. Okay. So it's and then I looked up another article, so I couldn't find anything that was an overlay and comparison of two populations. So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I do like the last line of the abstract. If Bigfoot is there, it may be many bears. Something about that line just is weird. It doesn't read right.
That is why it's a preprint. Because you have people that are way better writers than others, and they can take that and make it sound a lot better.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Um,
Tim, anything else before I kind of jump into a couple points on the introduction?
No, you've got me working already. So is for every 900, we should expect one report?
That's what the model, the mathematical model that they use. That's what it spit back out. So
Do they
we're
give a time frame? I didn't see
Yeah.
like
Like, is that one per
one
day?
report per year, or
I don't remember seeing anything like that on the
Yeah.
time period.
yeah, I read
I don't
because
remember
right
that
now
either.
West Virginia has approximately 8,000 individual black bears. So that would be
Okay.
8.8, maybe 9 reports. But would that be 9 reported sightings a month,
Yep.
a year?
So yeah, then I guess a lot of the databases, and we can talk about that when we get into the material and methods, but they do talk about where they got the Bigfoot sightings from. So if you'd like to go and check that, Tim, you can do that yourself. And since you mentioned it, I'll just quickly read. Sighting reports in the United States and Canadian provinces were sourced from the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
The BFRO.
BFRO. It's a geographic database of Bigfoot sightings and reports.
That's it. That's what I'm used to hearing on TV. The BFRO.
The BFRO. It sounds like an official government bureau.
They've been on like a couple of those Finding Bigfoot or Not Finding Bigfoot shows, I think, or something like that.
But it is interesting. They can actually take something by, let's face it, they're an amateur group. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with them. I've heard of them. I don't know if they're scientific or not, but they can take sighting data and use it in a study, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I think, and this is just speculation, I'm not exactly sure, but I think the sightings are just based on people reporting, self-reporting.
Correct. The data consists of eyewitness testimonies,
Okay, yeah.
mostly from the second half of the 20th century to the present day.
What's the name of that? The BFRO?
BFRO
The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
So that's where they got the data from. So the other point I'd like to make in here, how many times have you talked to somebody who truly believes in Bigfoot and you say, could it be a bear? And what's one of the things they say? Well, bears don't walk on their hind legs. Tim has a picture of it, which is obviously a fake.
It's stuffed.
It's a stuffed bear. Anyway, so the point they make here, which was interesting, indeed, the American black bear has been identified as a likely candidate for many purported Bigfoot sightings, since the black bear is a large tetrapod typically covered in a dark pelage, fur, I guess, and is known to ambulate bipedally. Well, there you have it. It's written down. So I don't know. I mean, Kenny, you've been to a few Bigfoot things, and Tim, I think you have too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So what's been the what have you guys heard as far as trying to explain it as a misidentified animal of any sort?
Well, I want to say for starters, Tim and I met for the first time in person at a Bigfoot conference.
Oh, how
Yeah.
romantic.
It was.
know.
It was raining and so sweet. It was nice.
Yeah. Everything was wet.
Mhm.
Say that.
Okay. Stay out of that tent.
But well, I mean, yeah, there's always that problem because it's the goldfish in a shark tank or piranha tank. You go to a Bigfoot conference, and if you start offering other ideas, for the most part, and the majority, it's been they try to shut you down right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been my experience. Absolutely not. Could not be a bear. Why? Because it can't be.
Why?
That's once you get past the it can't be, it starts getting confrontational.
Right.
There's that passion, there's that emotional response. So it kind of you pick and choose your battles.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to listen to the details and say, well, how close were you, this and that, and you like more yes.
Only when they hold each other's umbrellas.
That's the biggest pushback I've gotten. Once in a while, there has been someone that considers it. You'd think like, all right, what are the conditions? What were the details of your experience? Could it be this?
Mhm.
And I would say I could count on one hand how many times the response was, oh, that might be it.
Mhm.
For the rest, it's been much more pushback. You don't want to. It's how a lot of ghost hunters used to be that I've dealt with. It's that you're taking something away from them if you try to explain it. Like that's their story. That's their. I don't want to sound mean, but it's almost like their claim to fame or their little time in the spotlight. They get to tell that story over and over again, which is cool. But when you're presenting it, my philosophy, if you're putting it out there, it's fair game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can ask questions and challenge it. So, and I try not to be a dick about it, but some people just take it that way.
You're just a skeptic.
Yeah, that's it. I'm just a skeptic. So, yeah, that's the amount of pushback that I've gotten. I don't know what else I can add to it. When you say bear, absolutely not. I have gotten, well, this isn't bear country. There are no bears here. And then
people will be surprised at the distribution, the geographic distribution of bears, black bears and brown bears, grizzly bears. There's different bears and they're pretty widespread. So I'm not sure saying this isn't bear country. Well, maybe not. But one of the points they made in this paper and other ones as well is even if it isn't a black bear, it could just be another animal being misidentified.
Right. It really comes down to what do you have to support your claim that what you saw was a Bigfoot? What do you have? Do you have just your experience? Do you have just a story that you're telling? Like, that's a cool story. I'm not being mean. I'm not doing like cool story, bro. Whatever. I'm saying that's a cool story, but we have nothing to validate it. There's nothing to go on here. Let's go look for clues. I don't know. I'm usually also asked, like, or as a response, like, well, do you think you'll be brave if you're standing like 10 feet away from a 8 foot tall, 800-pound thing that wants to kill you?
No, I'm going to know it's a bear or I'm going to get the hell out of there.
If I'm that close, yeah, I'm going to know, but I'm going to get out of there. But my smart ass is going to take a picture. I'm going to try to take something, but I don't know what else to say. It's okay. I don't find it, I don't know what the word is. I don't find it progressive to engage in conversation like that.
Right. Okay. All right, Tim.
That Bigfoot conference was my very first conference and has been my last. It was enlightening, for sure. There were some people that I met that were willing to discuss and talk about the problems and the shortcomings of I guess what you would say data that would support. But then there were other people, just like Kenny said, as soon as you just had simple questions, and honestly, like my simple question, which is just a question, I don't think it's proof that there's no such thing as a Bigfoot, but for me, it's a sticking point, is where's the skeletons? Like, where's the bones? Where's the head? Where's the, again, like, I hate to keep referencing, but being in a state that you would imagine would have some Bigfoot, or big feet, Bigfoot tie, whatever the plural of that is. It's not uncommon for your dog to go out into the woods after deer season and bring back the leg and bones of animals that have been shot and the hunters didn't make it and it's decayed and your dog found it. Like, where are they? And it's just a question, for me, that's that question. And it compiles it for me when, you can hear and have reputable stories of people hiking. I'm not that drunk, Kenny. I almost messed it up though. Just people hiking and come across deceased bodies. Like you find human remains. So some of the pushback I got was that, it's an interdimensional being, and that, or if they're paired with aliens, that when they decease or when they die, that they go back to their dimension, or they're picked up by aliens, which, compounds it even more, because now how did you get there? And like, what can I do? Like, what can I do? Like, I can't, how am I going to test that? Other than finding a deceased Bigfoot and putting a camera and a 24-hour watch on it to see what happens. And I need that first.
Right.
But it was a good mix. I liked, I can't remember his name, but the gentleman that put on the conference, Eric Altman. I enjoyed him. He had some pretty good discussion, and he was really there for it, and he was really open for it. And I enjoyed it. He put on a really good conference, even it did rain horribly, but it was still a good conference. I met lots of good people. But yeah, I feel like it's that bar that keeps getting pushed when you ask questions that, well, it's this, now when you question that, then the bar moves again and it's something else.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next part I'll read it. It summarizes the earlier studies.
Before we move on, I want to address this. My wife has a question. Do they ever find bear remains?
I did. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my wife and I were hunting and we found the bones and we were like, oh shit, not hunting, hiking. And so
no gun. Well, I know West Virginia.
It's mandatory. You're given one at birth. They're like, here's your birth certificate. Here's your 22 pistol. Learn that, and then you can move up.
If you're hiking in bear country, you might want to take one with you.
Yeah, we found one hiking when we were married, first married, and it was just a lot of skeletal remains. And of course, it had been scavenged, so a lot of it was gone. But it was a younger bear, probably a cub, so it looked like a tiny little rib cage. And so we were like, shit, we need a call. So we actually called law enforcement, and law enforcement, a game ranger came out, and they were like, oh, congratulations, you found a dead cub. But yeah, we did find a bear.
Okay. I did a quick search and found that it's not common, but people do find remains, not just bones, sometimes like partial carcass. But yeah, you do find it. But the majority of people are saying that it's because you're out in the wild and larger animals, predators will come, or scavengers will come out and take care of the bodies. So that's why we usually don't find too many remains, especially where we're talking about where the big populations are. So, but it's a good question. I mean, it's because how many times have we hiked? Like, I don't think I've ever come across a bear. I mean, I hope it's dead rather than alive if I do come across one. But it would be so cool to bring it home. Be like, look what I got.
Oh God, she'll kill you.
That would be cool.
Your wife would be like, nope.
But he's so cute. But yeah, I mean, I would expect at least someone to find something. Something like, just something that doesn't fit the normal fossil record.
Well, they talked not about bones, but they did make a comment that genetic and microscopic analysis of supposed hair, feces, and other specimens, which I guess could include bones, attributed to Bigfoot have been variously identified as synthetic fiber or material from known forms of different animals. So they've never gotten a sample or collected anything, at least from what they can find in the literature, that would indicate it's anything but something we already know about.
Right.
All right. So the next point, let's summarize the the two earlier studies, and then we'll get into a little bit of what they did here and what they found. And I'll ask either Tim or Kenny when we get to it if we can pull those maps up that they had in the paper.
Yeah, I got both of them.
That would be cool. So the author Blight in 2005 examined the relationship between Bigfoot sightings and black and brown bears populations in the Pacific Northwest, and that included Alaska, Montana, Oregon, Washington, Northern California, and Idaho. And they looked at a probabilistic model of expected animal sighting rates. There was no positive correlation between the brown bear population density and Bigfoot sighting frequency, but that wasn't found. It was suggesting that the brown bear misidentifications must comprise only a small proportion of all sightings. However, a positive correlation was identified for black bears, which further implicates the black bear in Bigfoot sightings. Lozier et al. In 2009 compared the results from an ecological niche models, both for Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and for black bears in the Pacific Northwest, noting a high degree of overlap in predicted distributions. So those two studies are what helped build up to this one. So they're citing that as, okay, the brown bears, no, but when you threw in black bears, yes, there was. And then the other study looking at their ecological niche model, knowing habitats and where each of these things, where bears would be, okay, then they overlay Bigfoot sightings. They're like, oh, well, maybe there is something to it. Mm-hmm. So then this study basically is taking that and using more data and just kind of redoing the analysis.
I like that. I like it. It's building upon it. You know, you can read.
That's how science works.
I know. Holy shit, dude. I mean,
so yes, I am saying bears do shit in the woods. And in Chicago, if you misidentify a bear on the highway. So yeah, Tim, any comments on that?
No, but is that the 2009 from the paper you read, or the
this is the summary of the recent paper, the 20. This is the introduction of the 2023 paper. So one of the things you do in the introduction of these papers is kind of outline what's already known, what others have found, and you set it up for why you did the study and what you're going to add to the knowledge base.
Right. Mm-hmm. Did you want me to pull up the figure from that paper?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, we can take a look at that real quick.
Kenny had it printed out.
I got it. I wanted to see what it said.
Let me
see.
I
couldn't read the writing when it was in the paper, but oh. I like that it gives this. Let me restart. I like the fact that it gives you this idea of what it could be, with some really solid data behind it. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on was the eyewitness accounts, like who we also have to go back and look at who's reporting, because it's not always going to be hunters or police officers or people that are used to seeing bears all the time.
Right.
These are going to be people that might have a glance out in the woods and see something like that, briefly walk for a few seconds, and that's it. They see it and they're like, oh shit, that was a big dark figure that looked like it was 8 feet tall. That's a Bigfoot, and they call it in. So I can see, I like having this correlation out there, showing this overlay, this match of bear populations, black bear populations, and Bigfoot sightings, because it gives us an idea, a little bit more data to say, hey, you know what? It is possible.
Right.
It really is. Now let's look at who's reporting and what did they really see. That's always a big stickler with me. The actual reporting, like who reported it and what did they actually report, as opposed to the secondhand or thirdhand summary of, oh, we've had 300 bears or Bigfoot sightings, when we don't know we have had 300 Bigfoot sightings. We just had 300 sightings of something that we can't identify. So that's my 2
Yeah,
cents.
I think I can see. I think that's an excellent point, and I think the repurposing or reusing the reports can get lost in translation if you keep going down the line. So the original report might just be, "Hey, I was out hunting and I saw something big, and it looked like it walked, and it was really scary." And they're like, "What was it?" And they're like, "I don't know, but it was big, and I stayed in the tree stand. I wasn't even about to get down." And then that might get picked up somewhere in a report and be put on a website that said there was a potential Bigfoot sighting in this county during this time, and then further on it might get counted as that was a Bigfoot sighting. So
Right.
the original report and how it's collected and how
Well, you should be able to go to BFRO and
I'm on there.
read them and see what they look like.
I found out how many Bigfoot reports were in my county.
How many?
3.
3. How many black bear?
Approximately, hold on, how many black bear in Fayette County?
2,700.
Oh, that works out exactly right.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes the data's too good and you have to question it, work it out too
I don't know
good.
what you're talking about.
Well, right now it just has what the county I live in is listed as the highest black bear population of 55, but I'm not really sure exactly if that's correct. But
Okay.
there's a lot more.
Ooh, they have classes.
Okay.
They have like Class A, Class B sightings.
Oh, do they really?
What is that?
Class X.
What is that? Oh, wait, classification system. Here we go.
Oh, we're going to get into classification systems.
Yeah.
Last time we did this, it was fun with EVPs.
Class A reports involve clear sightings in circumstances where misinterpretation or misidentification of other animals can be ruled out with greater confidence.
Uh-huh.
Class B is incidents where a possible Sasquatch was observed at a great distance or in poor lighting conditions, and incidents in any other circumstance that did not afford a clear view.
So this is a good point because it doesn't say in the paper what class they used in the analysis.
They also have a Class C, which is most secondhand reports and any third-hand reports or stories with an untraceable sources. That's a big deal, I think.
Well, if we were reviewers for this paper, we would ask them to clarify that point and maybe do an analysis of how does the analysis turn out when you do it all versus a Class A or a Class B or whatever the other classes were.
Yeah.
No, that would be interesting to see, though. I mean, the ones that, if they say they were clear, they claim misidentification was maybe not the cause because of the clarity of the sighting. It'd be interesting to see what that data looks like, because I don't know. We could maybe we could tell by digging into how many they reported here and what the numbers are on that website. But that's interesting.
So let me give you an example here, if I can. I looked up one of the Class A reports.
That's good, Jay. Class B, E, A, and R.
Nice.
I like that.
So this is a Class A sighting. Observed. So they have a bunch of seasons. It's February 2023, winter in Alabama. Observed. My husband and I heard strange sounds for 2 nights in February and laughed about how they sounded like Bigfoot sounds on television shows. The 3rd night at dusk, we were on our carport. You can get up on carports? That's weird. All right.
Is it from
issue.
Is it from Alabama?
Alabama, yeah.
They just mean okay, let me translate Southern. They were sitting in the carport. That's
okay.
They were on the car.
Looking into the woods that border our property.
Thanks, Tim.
We saw what looked like Bigfoot peeking around a tree at us. We watched it for about 5 minutes as it appeared to look at us from the left, then the right of the tree trunk. I dismissed it as being a distortion with the trees and the wind. I turned to go in the house and looked back and distinctly saw what could only be a Bigfoot running away. I yelled for my husband, and he also saw it running away. So that is what they consider a Class A. report. I don't. There's nothing about how far away it was from them, because they just say it was at the edge of the woods and it was dark. Doesn't oh yeah, time and conditions says 4:30, but she says it was dark. And I mean, she also dismissed it as being the trees and stuff like that. Doesn't
So what does it say? What time of year? What time of year it was?
February.
So yeah, it would be dark at 4:30
9th.
potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most depressing thing about the winter.
Bottom of the woods that sit at base of small mountain. So I mean, that's to me, like, I would expect it to be like, like you're only a few feet away from it, and it stands up. I know I'm being picky. I'm probably being like overkill here, but that would be class A to me. Like, definite see it, daylight, looking right at it. Like, damn, Daryl, what's up, Daryl?
Have a conversation with Daryl.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. So let's see. Why don't we move into? We already talked about where they got the Bigfoot data from, and we're just going through that. The black bear populations for the U.S. and Canadian provinces, those were taken from a lot of different sources. I mean, you have everything from Department of Natural Resources, Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, Department of Conservation, through various states, a couple other conservation societies, biologists, conservationists, and media articles where those type of people were quoted. So to me, those are people that are trained, and they're out looking probably to catalog bear population. So those are probably pretty good and solid, as opposed to what you just read.
Well, this is here. I just shared this.
And think of this real quick before we talk about that comment. If you have people for all these different departments of conservation and biologists and government positions, that's what they do, how come they never have seen a Bigfoot out in the woods as they're out doing their work?
Right.
All right, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Oh, no, I thought exactly what you just read and said. Kind of Tom had just put that up after listening to the top tier explanation or example, rather. So I have here's another question. This is kind of a side note. Like, how do you, after you see it run away, whatever, like, did they go look? Did they go look for footprints, scat, droppings, fur? Like,
so there is a follow-up here, and it said that the investigator, oh Jesus Christ, I'm sorry, the investigator Matt Moneymaker.
Oh yeah,
Matt Moneymaker.
I've seen him.
Well, there's red flag number 2.
He said I spoke with both witnesses. They are very credible seniors who observed this Bigfoot in daylight at about 150 feet distance for a few minutes as it peeked around the tree. And it goes on. It doesn't really tell too much. It doesn't look like the people went. They both claim that the figure must have stood approximately 8 feet tall. And his fur was very dark. Ooh, like a black bear's?
Okay.
But it goes in. It doesn't look like, I mean, if he's saying they're seniors, I mean, the very credible part, I don't know how he determined that. And I'm not being mean before anyone jumps on me. Eyewitness testimony is not always the best. And just because you can be credible in something doesn't mean you're a great witness. But I mean, again, like this, it was 8 feet tall and its fur was very dark. I mean, how tall is Blackie there? You know, when they're standing, how tall is a bear when he stand up? How tall is a black?
I can hear
the age.
The keyboard keys are going to catch on fire.
Standing up. So 5 to 7 feet tall.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're 150 feet distance, I could see it you estimating, because we suck at estimating height. I've seen
And
that with a lot of
distance.
Loch Ness monster kind of sightings. People suck at it. So now I want to try this out. Now I want to get a cardboard cutout of Bigfoot at 7 feet tall and put it out at 150 feet distance and see what it looks like. I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
He's got another work project.
Yep.
You could do a 7 foot to 8 foot, I guess. What was the height?
It said 5 to 7.
Okay,
So
you could do
6
5
foot.
to 7, put it 150 feet out, and then just have people
estimate.
Yeah, and I guess you would have to be careful of the surrounding cues that they could match it with, or maybe you should have the surrounding cues that they could match it with.
Yeah,
maybe you do both.
I do have an area I can put it in where it's surrounded by like brush and trees and stuff like that. So it would, but not, you still get a clear view of it. So that's, yeah. Oh, I can't wait till tomorrow. How often do you hear that? Like, I can't wait to come to work tomorrow. Woohoo!
Bob is joking, obviously, but this would be good with if you're going to play around with that. Is put the height thing up there and see.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. That. Okay. Good. All right. So let's move through real quick what they basically did. So they took that data. They took the Bigfoot data. They took the available human population statistics and land use figures from the Census Bureau and Statistics Canada. The possible association between the sighting reports and the black bear populations and states was looked at using a correlation coefficient. Basically, all that does is you take two things and see if they're correlated. If one increases, does the other increase? If one decreases, does that one decrease, or is it an inverted correlation? One increases, one decreases, then you see if that's a statistically significant result. So they went through that, and then the sightings, logically a function of the number of people in each state, province. We already briefly commented on that. So they tried to implement a model that investigated the possible association between sightings and bear populations while also adjusting for the impact of human population and land area. So this is where they ended up doing the linear mixed effects regression models. So then this is where you start getting like, okay, you can do a regression, you get a regression line, then you can come up with an equation and numbers where we get for every 900 bears, you should have one Bigfoot sighting. So that's what they ended up doing. But I think they have a table in here that talks about in the unadjusted analysis, the correlation coefficient between the number of Bigfoot sighting reports and black bear populations in states, provinces was low and not statistically significant, but it was under their predetermined p-value. But however, they say when they adjusted it with the regression analysis, which controlled for confounding factors by human population, land area, black bear population, it was significantly associated with Bigfoot reports, such that on the average, one sighting of Bigfoot is expected for every 900 bears in an area. So Tim, if you want to pull up those maps, to me the maps are kind of the real nice visual to see what they're talking about with all this different type of analysis. So the first map you'll see will be the Bigfoot sightings. And then the second one in green will be the black bear sightings, and then the human population. Kenny has it. As Tim tries to get the map back.
There we go.
There we go. So, I mean, even visually, if you look at Bigfoot sightings on the top, again, black bear in the green in the middle, and human population on the bottom, there's the overlap, at least visually, kind of stands out.
And remember, like, we're not just looking at the dark areas. This is a sliding scale here. So even the light areas in the middle.
Yep.
Are populations.
Yeah, and that's why you would, something like a correlation coefficient, you'll say, okay, does this dark area match up with this one? Does the lighter area still match up with an equally equivalent numerical lighter area value? So there's, I mean, it's a fair amount overall. I mean, even visually, while it looks good, I mean, you can look at it and go, well, what about that state? And what about this state over there? What about Texas? What about Florida? They don't have, a heavy black bear population, but when you actually run the analysis on the overall data, that's when they're saying there's something to it.
Right. And again,
Tim,
overall, this is not saying every Bigfoot sighting is the result of a black bear being misinterpreted. This is just one possible explanation that has data to support it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
But
Tim?
it's interesting.
It is.
Okay, good. Another
So,
one?
yeah, what they basically conclude is present study reports of Bigfoot sightings on black bears across the U.S. and Canada. A significant positive association was found between Bigfoot sightings and black bears, such that adjusting after human population and land use for every 900 bears in a given state, there should be the one Bigfoot sighting. They do say the findings are in agreement with the results of previous studies, so the 2005 and 2009, and suggest that supposed Bigfoot sightings in North America are likely misidentified black bears. The present study builds on the previous ones, and then they talk about the limitations, and I'll mention those, and then we can comment on that, and then just kind of general discussion. Limitations included potential residual confounding by effects such as homeless populations who may also be misidentified. I thought that was an interesting comment.
That's a good point.
Bunch of homeless people out in tents in the woods wandering around. I guess, yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Hairy and shit.
Yep. Mismatching years in the data. While the bulk of the black bear population estimates for 2001, others were more recent. So they have a time thing they need to address there. Notably, Bigfoot sightings have been reported in states with no known breeding black bear populations. Although this may be interpreted as evidence for the existence of an unknown hominid in North America, it can also be explained by misidentification of other animals, including humans, as part of the possibilities.
Right.
So that's overall what the paper said. It was short. It was only a couple pages, but I think as we go through this, and we've talked to it, it's like, okay, we identified some questions we had.
I mean, my first question overall is, what is the ratio or the time that we brought up before, the duration? Like,
Yep.
One sighting every 900 bears, how long? Like, per day, per week, per month? That's not answered in this paper, and
Correct.
that's bothersome, because that's a burning question. Like, what the hell does this mean?
Mhm.
And then other than that, I mean, the homeless population idea, that is something I haven't considered before, because even though I have come across people living in the woods, that is something to consider, because if they're bulked up, especially if it's cold out, they probably have a large collection of mismatched, and I'm not being mean here, but mismatched clothing that is probably dirty from living in the woods. So if they're going around hunting or scavenging, you might see them. You might see them and freak out because you don't know what you're looking at.
Right.
And that could be from just a quick survey of the BFRO stuff, I mean, that could be a sighting that's reported. Hunters miss. I mean, how many times I can call up stories about like state police hunting and misidentifying a target and shooting a person because they thought it was a deer or something like that. So hunters can, not all the time, but they can mistake what they're looking at. So, and I'm sure if they're not wearing the orange, that I assume every state has laws about that. I mean, I know Pennsylvania did. We had to wear a bright orange vest, or at least a hat I think when I got my license the first time. But if they're not wearing something like that and they're in camo, what if they're wearing a ghillie suit? Like who knows? I mean, that really looks like something. And I do like that they do mention, that there are sightings in areas that have no breeding population of black bears. Is something we have to look at. It's not just like, hey, let's throw all this stuff out and say, hey, we know the reason. We don't.
Yep.
There's still sightings going on in places where there are no black bears. So we have to consider that. And then lastly, the misidentification of other animals. Yes, that's definitely the case. Although this study focuses on black bear population, that doesn't mean that's the only one that we can bring up. We still have, there's still probably a small amount of brown bears that have been mistaken. There's also humans, as we discussed with the homeless people and other hunters or other people just trekking through the woods. But other animals, I mean, how, again, I guess this is a detail that we'd have to get into in the reports to see how much of the alleged creature they saw, the witness saw. Did they only see the head? Did they see a torso and head? Did they see just legs? Did they see hands coming around? Like, what did they actually see? And then go from there. Because if you're only seeing part of a beast where you think it's 8 foot tall and you're only seeing maybe 2 feet of it, it could be something else.
Yeah, no, that's true.
These are all good points that come up, and I like this paper. I mean, I really do, and I hope it goes through the motions and bulks up and answers some of the questions that we have. I mean, I wonder if we can send them something and say, hey,
I think their email is listed, so I think you could.
Good. But that's what I have for now. So if Tim brings up questions, maybe it'll jog a memory of something else.
No, I'm oddly, I was just looking at my county when you started talking about reports, how they're classified. So at least on Bifro, there's 3 for my county in West Virginia. It's 98 and 99, 2007 and 2013. So the summary of the reports in 1998 it was reported as characteristic vocalizations heard by residents at night in fall and winter.
Okay.
I don't, unless they're saying, let me see if it gets an unusual howl. I'm reading like a more detailed. I don't know. Like, so that's an unusual howl is considered a report. I find it really interesting. Like, going back to what you said about how they accept a report is interesting to me as well. There's only one here. Nope, that's a lie. So the other 2 claim to have direct visual contact. One with a hunter through his scope.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the reporting is the big issue, I think.
Yeah.
That we're going to have with this, like the quality of the reports. I think that's a big deal with this, and I think if they were filtered, as in like, put a filter on it where it's sight. You have line of sight on this alleged creature and a certain distance, like a close distance where it's a good identifying distance. I don't know what that would be. I don't have any numbers like that, but some kind of filters that we could put on it and then filter out everything else, like the one Tim just mentioned, like just sounds in the distance. I wouldn't consider that a Bigfoot report. That's a sound report. That's not a Bigfoot report. That's kind of silly to me. So I think if they filtered it out and then use that data to overlay or match up with the population maps, that would be I think stronger data. I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Yep, I agree.
I'm done rattling on.
Yeah, I wish you wouldn't have told me about the Biffro website, because now I want to.
He's gonna be up all night.
Now I'm going to have to figure out. I've already had my calculator out like 7 times, going, how do I get the percentage of this to see if it's accurate and all that. But then I go and I look at the individual reports, and they're like saying, well, this person heard a strange howl, and they're accepting that as a Bigfoot report. So I guess if you say you think it was a Bigfoot, then that is considered a Bigfoot report, I guess, which would make sense.
Okay.
I think we're looking for too much.
We're working also as we're doing the show.
We are.
I'm actively emailing the author of the paper. I'm going to send him that question because I really want to know.
Yeah, I think we beat the paper up as much as we can right now.
Yeah.
So we can probably move into closing comments, what you got coming up, and then you can get back to emailing the author.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't want to get distracted. Okay.
So, all right, closing comments. Let's start with Tim first.
Regardless, I even though I like the concept of it, I just like the concept of it. It was new for me. I like the idea of looking at populations of what people tend to think that a Bigfoot sighting was, like a black bear, and looking for a correlation. It's like one of those things. It was like when I read it, and when I read the paper that you shared a little while ago, I was like, Psh, how did I, like, that's so, like, how did I miss that? Like, that just seems, it doesn't mean, like, I'm not saying like you could wipe out everything and prove that nothing, it's just, that was a really keen, interesting, fresh look at a possible explanation to the reports. And it's got me, I'm enjoying the hell out of this Biffro and trying to figure out the percentage of black bears per county and how that works into what there should be see if it comes out about, one for every 900. Right. But the problem I'm running into with my math is, one, I'm not good at math. And two, I don't know, are these all lumped together and doubled, or are they individual accounts?
Right.
And I guess the time frame, like one out of 900 black bears, you should see one report.
Yeah,
I guess is that.
Yeah, we'd have to. I don't know. I think they need to explain the methodology a little better.
Yeah,
and the timing, because one of the comments was, we took most of these reports from, this black bear population from 2001.
Yeah.
But you're taking all the Bigfoot sightings from the late, 20th century all the way through present day. You might want to match up your time periods a little better, because I think that's a weakness.
What's the black bear population growth or decline or migration throughout that time frame too?
Yeah.
That's definitely.
So that could be a problem too.
I got a lot to write to this guy. I'll be nice. Don't worry.
I feel like we should have an expert on black bears.
We should.
Well, it shouldn't be hard to find. It seems like there's at least one in every state.
Yeah.
Just find somebody from natural resources or fish and wildlife, or somebody who does the surveys.
Because Kenny just dropped that little nugget about how far do they roam? Like, what is their home? Like, what's their home?
What's their feeding?
Like how far do they roam? Yeah,
and there's different what they call geostatistical methods that they could use to better refine their analysis. There are ways to do exact. They said they could geocode it, georeference it, but there's actually specific types of analysis you can do to see and set parameters. Like if the sightings are within a half mile of each other, you count it. If they don't, you don't. And then it runs a variety of complicated statistics on that as well. And that would be getting more refined maps. And maybe they have those, but the maps we saw were just kind of, here's a general color code for the Bigfoot sightings. Here's a general color code for the black bears, and here's the human population. But there's ways to refine that and do a little more detailed analysis, which would be nice to see.
Yeah. And regardless, I'm really I'm appreciative that someone did that, because even when they did that and they did this study and they put it out, I mean, it's got us talking.
Yeah.
And I certainly like the concept of it and discussion, and that's how things kind of grow or they die. And this is good. I appreciate the publication of those.
Yep. So I kind of mixed in my closing comments there on the statistical analysis and what they could maybe do better. But overall, I thought it was an interesting paper. That's why I brought it up and thought, let's talk about that. That'll make for an interesting show. So, okay, Kenny, pass it down to you for a closing comment.
I enjoyed this paper. I loved it. For the same reason you guys have brought up, and it got us talking. I honestly, I really like when we take a topic like this, a specific topic, and we can do the show and work on it at the same time.
Yep.
I love it because people get to see, like, this is what we do when we get something that really piques our interest. It's like, all right, we want to look at this up. We have questions that pop up randomly. Like, all right, and I want to know this. Incidentally, right on that note, the total home range size for male black bears averages about 66.7 square miles.
Ooh, that's a big area.
For females, it's 15.83 square miles. And then to put that in a better perspective, it's the equivalent of an area 8.1 by 8 by 8 miles, like an area like that. And then for females, it's half that, 4 by 4. So yeah, that's a huge area for an average male black bear. That's a big area. So imagine you got 900 or 1,000 black bears. That's a big area. So yeah, I like shows like this where we can explore, we can learn as we're going, and show like we don't know it all, so we're just discussing it, and we're discussing it with questions. We have things that we're not sure. We can now we can email the author and see if that gets responded to. But overall, it really it was a good paper. I mean, it's nice. It gives us the data. It gives us the methodology. It lets us explore it. It tells us where it came from. It builds upon previous papers. It doesn't just, say they were all poo-poo and we're doing our own thing. It built upon them and reinforced the data that came before it.
Good point.
So really nice. And it got us thinking and got questions, got motors turning. So definitely love it. And I can't wait till the reviewed version is published, and then we can read that and see what they is.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume it'll be slightly different.
Yeah, probably.
Slightly.
So there you go.
Slightly.
That's my closing thoughts.
All right. Well, let's start with what we all got going on. 1 month from now, we'll have another 3 Tortured Souls episode. Besides that, I think you're up, Kenny.
Okay.
Besides that, I think we should have some good news on that EMF paper that we've been working on. It's pretty well done. It's going to be resubmitted, and if they like what we did, which they should, we worked pretty closely with the assistant editor, so I'm hoping it's in good shape at this point. And if that all looks good, that should come out in March sometime. So I think one of the things I'd like to do is once we get to that point is kind of talk about the process we went through on that and how we went from kind of our little preprint to the final version and how much it was different. And then we just talk about the paper itself and what we did and what we found. So I think that's something I'd like to do eventually.
Cool.
So yeah, besides that, I'll see y'all next month. So let's see, Tim, what else you got going on?
Once a month and once a year, I get together with 2 really good friends and we talk shit about paranormal claims basically and do some exploration, and it's a lot of fun. I have to say that something that's really interesting that happened here. Let me I should have looked. Hold on.
Slacker.
Daniel Reed started a West Virginia chapter of Skeptics.
I saw that, and we've all been invited, and I think we're all on that now.
Yeah, and our first meeting is March 18th.
Cool.
And I'm going to do everything I can to go to that.
Awesome.
Excellent.
And I saw the invite in the preparation for Gettysburg this year. So I don't know if you guys are going. If you guys can make it, let me know. And if you are, then I'll definitely make a point to get in there too.
Sweet.
Cool. All right.
My turn.
Yeah.
All right. So, last weekend was CPR course here. I am officially certified in CPR again for 2 years.
Oh, good. I can have a heart attack when I see you.
That's right. You can. You can choke too. And if you get a laceration, I can also fix that. So that's good. I love that we had that here, and it was free for me. So that's nice. March 18th is from 2 to 3:30 p.m. There'll be a talk by Susan Gerbic, a friend of mine, how I spent my lockdown. She'll be recounting activism against grief vampires like Thomas John. And if you don't know who Thomas John is, he's a grief vampire. But that'll be a talk. I'll be helping out or attending and heckling her because that's what I do. May 12th to 14th, I will be in Rochester, New York at the Rochester Parafest. I'm going to be setting up a table. I'll have my Skeptical Help booth out there. This is the first time I'm going to that one. It's about an hour away, so not too bad. I'm looking forward to it. May 19th to 21st, I'll be in Penhurst, that Penhurst Paracon. That's like an asylum that's in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty well known. I don't think it's haunted at all, but I was invited to come down, so I'll be setting up a table down there. And July 14th to 16th, I'll be in Gettysburg for Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. I was invited to be on one of the panels, which is, I mean, it sounds really cool, but usually I just end up fighting with everyone. No.
Jesus, 2 years in a row. Look,
Shocking.
look, Benny.
Look, don't leave me hanging, Tim.
Well, you said you had it.
I know. Well,
All I want to say is
I was mistaken.
all I want to say is I don't think it's a coincidence that people want to go fuck with you when I'm there.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I'm like, all right, you got this, and you're like, yeah, I got this. I'm like, all right, have a good night. I'm going to bed. And
All hell
then
breaks loose.
Donna calls me at 1:30. Where are you? Like, he said he had it.
He had it handled. What's going on?
No, it'll be fun. I'm going down
Good.
there. And we'll have some discussions and stuff. I don't think I'm setting up a booth this time. We're just gonna go down and enjoy the conference and
That'll be nice.
Tour around Gettysburg, because we haven't done that the last couple times. We've just gone for the conference and we really haven't been able to relax. So
Cool.
And then besides that, November 4th and 5th, I'll be at the New Jersey Para Unity Expo in Woodbridge, New Jersey. I'll be set up there. That's always a really good time because a lot of people come by and a lot of good conversations. I actually like that conference. And then lastly, every Friday night, Skeptical Help Bar, 8 p.m. Eastern, right around Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. And I'm trying to get a guest for Friday night. I don't have anyone set up yet, but that's because I'm just lazy. But that's all I got for now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening and tuning in tonight. And we will be back in a month. Remember, it's the first Wednesday of every month that we do the show at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And Kenny's up next. So we'll expect the topic any day now. So we have the full month to prepare, which we obviously do take the full month or at least a 3-hour plane ride to do the research we need for the show. So with that, everybody take care, be safe, and we will see you in 1 month. Bye.
Bye.
Don't for chance, don't for chance, don't for chance. Game is the real, this was the game. Game is the real, Bigfoot is real. Don't question me, Dave is the dog. Dave is the dog. Ghost in the room, hiding on TV. Don't for chance, don't for chance, don't for chance, don't for chance. And for what you say, I will get you better.